Good afternoon, Shakun. I'm grateful to you for being able to find time for this discussion. I know you have been extremely busy in your APAC leadership role at Oracle, your speaking assignments, and travels around the world. As the current year draws to a close and a new year begins, it is natural for all of us. What are the trends? How HR is going to be changing over the years? Of course, one is the immediate 2019. These days, in any case, we can't think in terms of 10 years or 20 years. As the things are changing, if we are able to project what is going to happen in the next 3 years, that should be sufficient for us to have a blueprint on how to go about it and what we can learn and do differently. So in that connection only, I wanted to ask you, how do you see, what are the major trends which will be affecting the HR profession?
Yeah. So no, Rajanji, you are right that we are not living in those times today when we could predict what is going to happen in next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Of course, we are living in a very, very disruptive place of work. However, I see that there are 4 or 5 things that are happening in a very, very larger context, and I personally feel they are like tectonic shifts in the landscape of HR, and therefore there has to be a permanent impact on the way HR is working. Because these 5 things that I'm referring to are going to fundamentally change the face of the workplace, and those are critically important. I'll quickly tell you what, to my mind, those 5 are, and then we will go deeper into each of them. So first thing is this rise of the gig economy. If you look at it, it is predicted that in the next couple of years, even by 2025, 40 to 45% of the global workforce would be comprising of the gigs. So therefore, that's a permanent shift. Now, traditionally, HR is designed to manage full-time employees or part-time employees of a company. But now we are seeing that employees will no longer exist. So therefore, the role of HR will significantly change. The other thing is this invasion of technology, which is rapidly evolving. This is also having a permanent impact on the culture of the organization and hence the changed role of HR. The third thing is the disruptive business models. If you look at it, all the organizations, all the businesses, all the industries today are facing massive disruptions. Now, it is not a one-time phenomena that we will see disruptions now and they will stop. Yeah. Going forward, the future is all about disruptions. And therefore, again, the role of HR significantly changes. The fundamental thread around this would be the learning and ability of the organization to evolve itself to the changing needs of the marketplace. So therefore, the part that HR plays or will continue to play in the realm of learning will again significantly change. And finally, it's about this multi-generational workplace that is again going to be a norm of the future. Somehow it is said that it is about millennials coming and getting inducted and one fine day it will be fine. I don't personally agree with that. To my mind, that is absolutely an absurd logic because today we call them millennials, but this generational gap and generational difference will always be there. So therefore, these 5 things I think are not just trends but tectonic shifts that are happening in the world that will permanently change the way HR functions.
Wonderful, wonderful. So how do you see how HR will be managing these employees who are largely invisible in the sense that they are not in the workplace, there is no fixed place. They may not only be working for our organization, it may be working for some other organization because freelancing will become a norm. In that context, how HR ensures engagement, one thing, connectedness, the sense of belonging to one organization, even if on an irregular basis. How does?
No, I think Rajanji, that's a very important and an interesting question. First of all, HR will fundamentally have to relook at the role it plays in terms of hiring and recruiting people. From provider of job opportunities, HR will now have to bear the role of sellers of work opportunities. Because remember, a gig chooses to buy an opportunity or chooses to buy an opportunity to work for a particular organization using the talent that he or she brings to the table.
And for a time of his or her choosing.
And a time of his or her choosing. And an assignment of his or her choosing.
Yeah.
So therefore, gone are those days where we could have a holier than thou kind of a thing. I still remember 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when we used to look at campus recruitments, HR professionals would be demigods in those campuses. Not happening anymore now. So that's a very important thing. So therefore, in order to attract and engage the gigs, 4 things will play a very critical role. What is the culture of the organization? Now, culture is not just about being employee friendly anymore. Culture now will be all about agility, flexibility, and more importantly, fun. Remember, in the priority list of the gigs who are really passionate about doing what they are doing, how much enjoyment they seek or how much enjoyment they derive from the opportunities that you are able to provide will be a critical deciding factor. So therefore, a complete relook at the culture model of the organization is important. The second thing is that how do you enable them in terms of very quickly onboarding them, making sure from the word go they are at the highest level of engagement and enjoyment, and they are productive throughout their tenure, so to say, which in this case could be a matter of few days. So gone are those days where we would have quarters and quarters of induction and onboarding, and then the performance curves will take over. So that's the second piece. The third piece is around how do you build that camaraderie of a community, because while gigs might come and go, they will come and go again and again. So therefore, managing a community of gigs around your value proposition, and earlier on we used to talk about EVP, and I think now the time is right for a GVP, which is a gig value proposition. So what's the value proposition that you are giving to the gigs? And that has to be a mix of culture, enablers, opportunities, and so on and so forth.
And how does the concept of team evolve with the gig?
And that's where it's interesting when you have permanent teams. I think trust and shared vision are the common threads that bind the teams together. In a large weightage is also to the role the leaders play in this. But if you look at the gig economy, it's like if you go to a sports match, for example, a cricket match in our country, you will see that people form teams only purely basis on the fun that they are having because of the activity that they are choosing to do. So therefore, when you are looking at engaging the gigs and bringing that bonding in the team, that element of fun, to my mind, becomes the common thread. And that only will come when the communication is very clear, when the proposition is very clear, and more importantly, when the enablers are very, very clear for the gigs.
Wonderful talking to you, and I'm sure that me as well as other co-professionals will be greatly benefited by your ideas. Thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much, and all the best to you.